All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Brittany McLeod, Associate Director in the Office of Undergraduate Research and Major Awards. I really appreciate you all taking the time to join us today. We're going to hear from 3 members of administration and faculty at UH as we dive into a conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion and what these things mean for you as undergraduate researchers. And so before we get into that conversation, I just want to bring up a couple of things. If you're not already aware, we have the PERS deadline coming up here in just over a week on November 2nd. So if you're working on an application for the Provost Undergraduate Research Scholarship, just know that November 2nd is that deadline. That's also the day that I need to receive your faculty mentor's letter of recommendation. It can be sent directly to me. And then also on November 13th, we will have a literature review workshop. So if you want to know about how to write one, what is the purpose of a lit review, how to organize one, please feel free to register for that. I'm looking forward to talking with you all about what a lit review really is meant to accomplish as you're working on them. And then also November 6th, we have a Getting Started in Research webinar. And some of you may have already been to one of those, but if you haven't, it's just a quick 1-hour conversation about how to get started, how to reach out to faculty, how to email faculty that maybe you haven't talked with before. And so I look forward to seeing some of you there as well. As we get started today, I want to introduce you to our panel. I know that one member is not here just yet, but I'll introduce the others. Dr. Erika Henderson is the Associate Provost for Faculty Recruitment, Retention, Equity, and Diversity here at the University of Houston. And Dr. Debora Rodrigues is an Ezequiel Cullen Professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. And her central research topic is focused on water quality and sustainability. Dr. Byron Freelon is going to join us here in just a few moments. He's an assistant professor in the Department of Physics, and his main research focus is on strongly correlated electron systems and low-dimensional materials. With all of that said, I would like to turn things over to Dr. Henderson now.
Thank you, Brittany. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for this wonderful invitation for us to come and join you. I want to just have a real conversation, kind of how it's going to flow this afternoon is I'm going to share a little bit more information about Dr. Rodrigues and Dr. Freelon and maybe ask a few questions, but I really want this to be an earnest opportunity for you to ask those questions that you've always wanted to be asked. And I've invited 2 brilliant faculty members here at U of H who also happen to be minority faculty members, but who produce incredible research, ascertain incredible awards, great teachers, award-winning faculty members. So I really want you to delve into thinking about possibly pursuing a career in the academy, as well as finding more about what's it like the day in and day out of life of being a faculty member. And as Brittany mentioned, I am the Associate Provost for Faculty Recruitment, Retention, Equity, and Diversity. And I've got a pretty cool gig because like my primary responsibility is to go and share the incredible story about the University of Houston, as well as the city of Houston, and encourage other brilliant minds to come and join our university. So that's kind of my primary gig. But however, the people who've got, I want to say one of the best gigs here at U of H are our faculty members. Some of the great benefits of their job is that they get to teach. They get to pass on this passion of learning to their students. They get to mentor students, encourage young people to think about and dream outside of the box, to think about new career opportunities and graduate school. And then they get to follow their interests. What other gig that you just get to wake up and say, you know what, I want to research on water quality. How can we make it more efficient? What other gig do you just get to figure out, you know, that's what I want to study? Well, you'll get to hear more about that from Dr. Rodrigues. And freedom over your time. You know, even my gig, I kind of have to come to work every day from 8 to 5. But as a faculty member, they kind of like decide when they want to work, except for maybe they get to do classes or they have to be sure to be there for their classes, but they get to decide when and what time they want to work. Right, Dr. Long? That's what you do all day, right?
I get to decide when I want to do my 80 hours a week. I can do it anytime I want.
Exactly, exactly. And then they get to do what they love all the time. You'll hear from Dr. Rodrigues how she loves her research. Well, she gets to focus on that all the time in her research as well as in her teaching. And then her autonomy. She doesn't, no one really says, okay, this is what you have to do, all this. She's has to be a self-starter in this work. So that's great to have an autonomy. And then she gets to collaborate with other faculty members at U of H, as well as at other institutions and research labs. And then there's stability. Right now where a lot of organizations are downsizing, right now, higher education institution and historically have been able to maintain stability and means a stable job, which is a great thing to have, and then have a long-term impact. Not only do faculty members impact brilliant minds that go out into the work world and research world, but their research also makes an incredible impact on our lives that we live. So we're going to hear from Dr. Freelon in just a moment, and this is one of the things about being a researcher. He's delayed today because he was setting up a laser in his office, in his lab. So he's running a few minutes late, but he definitely wants to join you guys today.
So I'm here if you can hear me.
All right, there you are, Dr. Freelon. So Brittany introduced him, but I want to add a little bit more about Dr. Freelon. He received his BS in physics from Prairie View A&M. He has his PhD in physics, his MS and PhD in physics from the University of Minnesota. He is the first recipient of the Morehouse Physics Prize, which recognizes graduates who have shown considerable promise in physics research and teaching. Dr. Freelon has received $1.2 million from International Center of Diffication Data. And Dr. Rodrigues joined the University of Houston Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering in 2010. She received her MS in Science and Environmental Microbiology from the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, and her PhD in Microbiology and Molecular Genetics from Michigan State University. She has received millions of dollars in research funds and conducted and received numerous awards, including the NSF Career Award. That's Dr. Rodrigues. So again, I'm just going to start the conversation.
Prior to COVID, right? Looking good. Prior to COVID, looking better.
Yes, we're all in our COVID look. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Freelon and Dr. Rodrigues. I'd like to ask the students here, how many of you have ever considered becoming a faculty member? Anybody want to speak to that? A show of hands.
I haven't really, but I have considered graduate school, so I'm interested in that.
Okay, cool. Well, these are the great people to talk about. Graduate school, research, and the like. Okay, so I'm going to start off asking a few questions, but again, this afternoon is totally about you guys. I want you to ask those questions that you've always wanted to know about being a faculty member. What's it like? And these people are just incredibly bright and earnest. And that's why I asked them to come and join us. So let's start off. What motivated you to choose to become a faculty member? Byron or Deborah, whichever you choose to start.
Okay, well, I guess I can go first. A number of things, I guess, to keep it short and sweet. I think an interest in being able to do research that was of my own interest and my own motivation. In the United States, in terms of our overall economy, there are really a limited number of ways in which a person can really have a job doing the research that they are personally interested in, and also research where they set the agenda mainly. So the ways are very limited. if you work as a government lab scientist, which I've done, if you work for a company, a private company, which I've done, a lot of the research and the work you do is driven by the needs of the company or the needs of government. And sometimes you get to do things that you're really, really interested in, but you also have to do things that, meet a financial target if you're working for a private company, or you have to do things that meet the government agencies' goals and needs if you're working as a government scientist. So it turns out that, being an academic researcher is one of the main ways that you get to basically dictate the research direction that you're going to take all the time for the most part.
Thank you, Dr. Freelon. Dr. Rodrigues?
Yeah, a lot of what he said also applies to me, but what I want to add is that two things made me go to academia. Just to give you a little bit of background, when I graduated with my MS, I was actually not sure if I wanted to go to academia. So I ended up working in industry for quite a bit. And that's when I realized how much freedom we have in academia to pursue things that we love and the ideas that we have. So if you are a very creative person and you have ambitions and desires of doing things and make changes in society and in the economy or even in technology, that's the way to go. Because academia, you have the freedom to do so many things. And if you have a passion, you can actually pursue them in academia. If you like to write, you can write novels the way that you want. If you like to do research that can help third world countries to provide water and health and safety, you can do that in academia. And that's actually what I like to do. My passion came because I can actually develop technologies that can help people from underdeveloped countries to have water and help them also preserve life, because microbes in the water is a problem and kills a lot of children in the world, water and sanitation. So that was my passion. Coming from Brazil, I saw so many people being affected because of the water quality. So that actually made me think, how can I make a difference? And I work in industry as well with treatment and all, but you are so limited. You have to follow a boss, you have people to tell you what to do and not to do. And in academia, I mean, I can come up with my own ideas and my own things. And more than that, you can excite so many people, so many students. When you teach and you transfer that information to your classroom too, you can see some of the students also with their eyes all excited about these new ideas and these new things coming up, and even students approaching you also with new ideas, things that they want to do to actually improve our society. And we as faculty, we get to see that and help them and encourage them. And that's priceless, I would say. So doing all those things and seeing all those things, actually, even when I was a student, having professors and seeing them doing things like that actually encouraged me to go to academia more so. And being able to teach students and excite students is also something that is priceless. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. That leads to kind of my next question. You covered that. Dr. Freelon, what made you choose your area of research?
And
maybe tell us a little bit about correlated electron systems and low dimensional materials.
All right. So I'm interested in studying materials that are called correlated electron systems. And so the way you can understand what a correlated electron system is by thinking about a piece of copper, if you will. We all know that copper is a great material because it conducts electricity. It has obviously a lot of importance to us. And we've been using copper for a long time for lots of different things. We understand a lot about how copper works. We can theoretically predict lots of things, like how much electricity it will conduct, how much it bends, how it behaves if you heat it. We know a lot about copper. And essentially, we use something called a free electron model to understand copper. That means we assume that the electrons in copper can conduct for the most part, and we can describe their behavior or the behavior of those electrons using something called the free electron model. We see electrons as like these kind of independent objects that kind of exist and follow certain rules in copper. But if you want to think about a strongly correlated material, that's a material in which you can't think about the electrons as being free and kind of independently moving objects. You have to figure out the ways in which one electron is connected to the other. And electrons can be connected or correlated with each other by virtue of the spin of the electron, what orbital the electron is in, the position of the electron, and the charge environment in a material. So I'm interested in understanding materials that have all of these complexities because of the interactions, the quantum mechanical interactions between electrons. And I guess the reason strongly correlated electron systems are so important is because of their potential for use in applications. So one big example of a strongly correlated electron system is a high temperature superconductor. And as you may have heard, high temperature superconductors hold a lot of promise for revolutionizing the world with low cost electricity. But on the other hand, there's a lot about high temperature superconducting materials we don't understand. That actually, if you ask us to predict or build a high temperature superconductor, we'll have a very hard time because we don't understand the microscopic details. And it's hard to understand those details because of all of these correlations between electrons. So lots of folks around the world are trying to figure out the details of such materials, and that's one of the areas of work that I'm involved in. How did I get there? I got there because very quick, when I went to graduate school, when I was an undergraduate, I got the opportunity to do high energy physics experiments. So I went to school at undergraduate at Prairie View. I spent 3 summers at Chicago at Fermilab. That's a high energy physics lab. And so basically, that kind of influenced me. I went into graduate school thinking I was going to do experimental high energy physics. Really got turned off by the fact that the projects were so large, and some experiments had thousands or hundreds of people on them. Nowadays they can have thousands. That kind of turned me off. I wanted to be able to put my hands more on stuff. So I decided that I wanted to maybe go into an area of experimental physics that was more laboratory based, more small scale physics. And so I decided to change from high energy to what we call condensed matter experiment. And condensed matter just means, it's a fancy way of saying we study materials. we study solid materials. So that's kind of my transition. So by the second year of graduate school or something, I decided to leave high energy experiment and focus on studying materials.
Wow, they both speak so passionate about their research. It's contagious. So now you all conduct this incredible research. So you both have these laboratories where you have this expensive equipment. You were just installing a laser today, and you employ, I'm assuming, graduate students, undergraduate students, and the like. How do you manage your lab day in and out? Is it open from 9 to 5? Or what's the case? And then how do you ensure, like the University of Houston has one of the most diverse student bodies in the country, how do you ensure that it's equity and all voices are heard in your laboratory and everyone's treated with respect? Deborah, would you like to jump in?
Sure. How I manage my lab. Ooh, I actually have a big lab, so I have a lot of students. It grew quite a bit.
Tell us how many, Deborah. Tell us how many.
Right now I have like 13 students.
Wow. And how many of the graduate?
So I have right now 10 PhD students, 2 postdocs, and 1 visiting scholar that wants to join. And actually I have 2 volunteers, so it's a little bit more, like 15 people. So 2 volunteers that they want to pursue graduate studies as well. So right now. So, well, I have weekly group meetings with my students. That's one way that, the way that I like to do is pretty much like, of course, not everybody presents every week, but we have group meetings every week. And we discuss at the beginning of the meeting some initial whatever issues that are in the lab or things like that. And and then some students present their work, their findings, and we discuss all together. We give suggestions on troubleshooting experiments and future directions. If it's a new student that just started, I typically ask them to give an outline of the project that they would like to work on, so we can all give input. All the students can give input and can participate. And I always pair younger students, like new hires, with more senior, either with a postdoc or more senior students as well, to make sure that they learn the techniques, that they are ready to do their own research. At the same time, they start to do their own research. That's how I manage right now. And I also have individual meetings, but the individual meetings is pretty much like, I have an open door policy, not with the COVID situation, but typically whenever I'm in my office, they can come whenever they want. And, but with the COVID, I just let them know, you want to talk to me, just shoot me an email when we schedule a Zoom meeting, and we'll talk. And that's how I do to manage. And some students, they need more guidance. Others, my seniors, they need less guidance. But I encourage a lot teamwork and collaboration in my group. So I have students that knows very well some certain techniques and some that knows other techniques. And if the project involves both techniques, I always ask them in peer instruction to help each other and work together. And I encourage them in the sense like, you're going to get a reward in the sense that you're going to be part of the paper as well. And so it's a very collegial lab. I encourage friendship, and I also encourage, I mean, now I'm not doing that, but every year, either Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas, we do a party at my home. I open my house, and each student will bring a dish, and so we get together, and I let them organize everything. Whatever thing they want to do, or things, whenever they want to do a party or do something, a gathering, I always have my house open for them. So I try to be very encouraging all interaction with my students. And one thing about my lab is that it's a very diverse lab. I don't typically hire students from the same nationality. One colleague once asked me, like, why you do that? Because I want everybody speaking in English. I have colleagues that they tend to hire just one nationality over others. In my lab, you will not see the same nationality. So you have people from Nepal, Iran, people from Spain, Vietnam, but never the same nationality. So it's a very international lab and multidisciplinary. I also hire people that has background in microbiology, in chemical engineering, in chemistry. So I do not discriminate in background or in interests, or as long as they like the research or the type of area that I work on and they have interest in that field and they want to work with me, I'll make sure to arrange and make them happy. Because I think at the end of the day, you need to do what you are passionate about and what you like. So I try to encourage my students to work on things that they are passionate about as well. So the students that come to me and are interested in doing research with water quality, I always receive them with open arms. So, yes.
So, Erika, can I comment on that question?
Please do.
So yes, I enjoyed the comments of the professor just now. I do want to comment on that and keep it short and just say I'm very hands-on with my students. Right, I have a smaller group. I have 3 graduate students right now, and a 4th student is exploring, working in my group, and I have a postdoc who is largely stationed at Berkeley Lab out in the Bay Area. So, but I'm very hands-on, and that's kind of guided by my own personal experience of as a graduate student, in which, you know, often I went long periods of time without contact with my advisor. And often when I did have that contact, it was just extremely helpful. And so it meant that I did some spinning a lot. We were learning very new techniques. Some of the techniques were new to my advisor. And, you know, in physics, you do have to be committed to teaching yourself a lot. But I do recognize, looking back, that had I had more contact, it would have been great, because there were many times where I could have been accelerated along by the contact. I'll just leave it at that. So I'm very hands-on with my students. Every student has an individual meeting every week. So we do calendars very heavily, right? Every student has their own individual meeting every week. And then in terms of subgroups, we do some group meetings based upon what projects we have. And also, we try to make sure that students are presenting often, so we rotate through. So oftentimes, what we find is that the students, when they have to put their ideas on paper and they have to present them to the group, it helps them organize their thinking. Sometimes that process actually helps them reach some conclusions and they see things in a different way. So we try to make sure that we have the students presenting. The other thing I force my students to do is we use a project management tool. So nowadays there's so many, because we have so many things going on in parallel, it's easy to drop the ball, right? And so we take advantage of project management tool, and I'm pushing my students all the time to use that. So, but what really pushes me is like, I do not want to see my students kind of spin their wheels, and so I try to give feedback weekly, and frankly more than weekly.
Great, thank you. I mean, you all are so passionate about your research and have an ethos of teaching and mentoring. Where do you go when you have a challenge? And do you have a mentor or the like?
Yeah, I can say something very briefly. So I've been fortunate to have very good mentors. And I have worked, after leaving graduate school, I've had some really good mentors. My postdoctoral mentor was a manager of 30 scientists, okay? And when I came to his group as a postdoc, he not only did he have a large amount of resources, but he
did he freeze?
Yep, I think Byron, you froze.
Okay, I can pick up on.
Jump in.
I can jump in when he figured it out. So I'm already a senior professor. I'm not that junior anymore. So I've been actually doing more the mentoring of my colleagues, my junior colleagues, than actually being mentored. But when I started, At U of H specifically, I had actually Dr. Clayton and Dr. Long that were very supportive of my career, and I participated in my initial projects with them. So, and before that, I had my mentor from Yale University, where I did my postdoc, and he's still kind of a mentor to me whenever I have questions and things like that, or I need any assistance or anything, I contact him for his opinion and suggestion. He's much senior than me, of course, and he's an NA member too. So he knows all the ins and outs to be successful in your career. So, and he very frequently still nominates me for external awards and things like that. So that was kind of something that I had when I first started. But when I started, it was really like Dr. Fritz and Dr. Long that were very helpful in my career, and my advisor from Yale too. Those were the ones that really were very helpful in my career. And of course now it's less because I'm now the one helping out people rather than actually being helped, which is expected once you become a senior and more established in your research field. So.
So
Thank you, Doctor. Go ahead.
I don't know how much where I got cut off, Erika, but I can be brief.
Please.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah, please feel free.
So I was saying that I've been.
Uh-oh, you got cut off again.
Uh-oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
You might want to turn off his video.
The wonderful world of video. Well, I think it's a great opportunity to pause. I would love to open the floor up for our brilliant students. Anyone happen to, you can feel free to jump in and unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can type it in the chat. Anyone happen to have any questions they would like to ask?
I have one.
Please feel free, Amber.
When did, and I don't know who is going to answer this, but when did you decide that you wanted to be at the collegiate level rather than doing something at a lower level, say K through 12?
Let me see if I understood your question. You want to know instead of at the university level and not like high school and middle school?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I can actually speak quite nicely because I actually work also with middle school. When I did my degree, I did an education degree together with, and we had to work with for a year in high school and middle school. And well, once you do a PhD, I still work with high school and my middle school, just to let you know. I work, but in a different level. They come to my lab. I still have a lot of, almost every year I receive high school and middle school students in my lab. I also participate in a lot of outreach programs at U of H where we have high school students that come in and they learn about how it's the life in academia and all. So it's kind of different. Not that I don't like to work with children. I love working with children, to be honest. So, but it's just that I have a passion for research. So I wouldn't actually give up on the research aspect just to go back to teach. So I'm trying to combine, and which is the beauty about being a faculty member is that you can still do stuff with high school and middle school in a different level. You can develop new programs or activities, games. I work sometimes with the Children's Museum as well to develop hands-on activities. So I never gave up on the middle and lower level students, even though I am in academia. So, but one of the reasons why I stay in academia is pretty much because I ended up doing more research, and but I still follow my teaching passion as well and educate the next generation, even the younger ages as well, and engage them in research and their curiosity for learning as well. So I hope I answered your question.
Dr. Freelon, Amber asked, what made you choose to pursue teaching in higher ed versus maybe K through 12? You're muted, Dr. Freelon. Poor thing is having a hard time today.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
So let me speak quickly then. So look, the mentor thing for me has been huge, especially after graduate school, okay? And I'm fortunate enough even now to have some of the bigger names in the field who I can call. I don't try to call them a lot, but I do. I've been, as a postdoc, I don't know if you guys heard me, but I went into a very large group as a postdoc. My boss supervised, I think, like 30 scientists, government scientists. And so I had tremendous resources, no questions asked. So that helped a lot. And I try to find mentors everywhere I can. So, you know, I'm an assistant professor. I have mentors within the department. I look for them across campus. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and wherever I can find them. And so let me go to the question at hand. So I actually have a thing for teaching. You know, I've done a lot of teaching with young high school students and middle school students, but very informally. I have always really been interested in training scientists. So just full disclosure, you know, since I was a college student, one of the things I wanted to do was train other Black people in science, in research. So that kind of focused me to the university level. But in my volunteer and in my private life, for many years, I've had some type of relationship with organizations that focus on tutoring and STEM in urban communities. So it just so happens that my research interests and my desire to work to help produce Black physicists, it pushed me into university thinking. But I really have a strong feeling and passion about helping younger people as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think someone asked a question in the chat asking, did you all need to pursue, everybody can see that chat, pursue a master's in education before becoming a faculty member, but those were answered. You definitely need to have a PhD.
Let me make a quip. If more scientists did do that, you know, the landscape of things might be a lot better. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, the next question. Anyone else happen to have a question?
Sure, I'd like to ask something.
Please.
Okay. As a student looking at graduate school, I was wondering what you guys expect most or like to see most on an application to graduate school. Like, what was an example of a successful application for your group, and maybe any tips or pointers you might have with your own experience in graduate school?
Byron, you want to go first?
Sure, and I'll be very brief. So interest is very important. I think I like to see that in PhD students. In terms of your application, I can tell you that you want to show that you're really motivated. That may be through good grades. That may be through some previous research experience. And it can also be through your personal statement. So if you can write a personal statement that focuses on, you know, your interest in research and your capacity or your, you know, likelihood to be a researcher, that would be great. This may sound a little harsh, but I wouldn't tell you, I wouldn't try to give bad advice on your personal statement. It can be a little me focused, but you know, you probably should make sure you beef up any research experience and your research interests. That's what people want to, that's what faculty will kind of bite into. Those are a few tips, hopefully.
Erika, can I jump in just a second with an unabashed plug for our office? One of the things that's most helpful for getting into grad school is just what they've been saying is a research experience as an undergraduate. That's what our office does. contact us, contact Dr. McLeod. We'll help you get involved in undergraduate research, apply to the PERS, apply to the SURF programs. We have all kinds of ways to get you involved, and that experience will go a long way to making your application to graduate school much stronger.
Absolutely. Dr.
Great
Rodrigues,
commercial
really,
break. Great commercial break.
but it's true. I mean, what I look is whether the student had any lab experience, because I also work in a wet lab, and students that typically don't have lab experience, I have my questions whether they will succeed or they will actually persist in graduate school, for the simple reason that research, to be honest, can be frustrating. So you have to be very persistent. Experiments don't always work. So it's not that you're gonna get to the lab and boom, you get the results. It's not like that. So I've had my share of students that I had to motivate super strong to stay in the program, because they were like, they didn't have a lot of research experience when they started the PhD. They were BS to PhD. And so when it starts to get too hard and too many things failing and, complicated and frustration after frustration, and because the ideas in a PhD should be novel. It's not that somebody has done it. It has to be something that somebody has not done it yet and needs to be answered. So you are swimming in a ground of novelty. So you are learning new techniques. You are learning, you are developing new techniques that not necessarily have been developed before. So there is a lot of hard walls that you hit, and that you need to really be able to do that. And by having a research experience in a lab, you actually see those things. And then you get to know, okay, do I really like it? Is that something that I'm really passionate about? I love challenge. I love, to be honest, when things don't work, I get even more excited, because my brain starts like, so maybe I can try these, I can try that, and these and that. If you like this type of challenge, perfect. But if you start like, oh, I hit a wall, I'm not gonna go anywhere, oh, it's the end of the world, then it's not for you. It's definitely not for you. So, but having a research experience will give you a glimpse of what could be your research when you go for a MS or a PhD for graduate school. And you also get to know students that are in this situation. You get to talk to them and get to hear their experiences in that lab and in other labs. And that's also important. So I look, when I see an application, that's the first thing that I look. Do they have research experience? Did they have a chance to publish a paper when they did undergraduate research? That's even better. So, but if not, that's fine too. I mean, you participate in a research and the PI put you as an acknowledgement. Make sure to highlight that in your application. And it's also good. And also you get more letters of recommendation as well, or more stronger letters from the people that you have been working with. We also look at letters very carefully, the recommendation letters. So if you do research experience and you get a letter from somebody that you did the research experience with, it's probably going to be a much stronger letter related to your behavior in the lab, how you did in the lab and everything. And that also counts positively for your application, I would say. That's all that I have to add. I think everything that Byron said was perfect. Well, and Stuart.
Another question? Okay.
Could I follow up? Just, you're saying the examples of overcoming failure, would that be good on a application, or should we just tailor the application to show what we can do without pointing out like our failures or faults or something?
Everything depends how you put it. I remember Dr. Clayton, I don't know if you had interaction with him, when I first wrote my proposal, he always say, you can write that you cannot do, but you have to write with a positive intonation. As long as it's a positive intonation, like there is this and that, I had a problem, but I got this awesome outcome, or, I figured it out this or that, or I don't know, something like with a positive intonation Not like, okay, I couldn't make it and I completely give up on that. So that's not something that you want to pass through in your application. Does it make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Dr. Freelon, anything you want to add?
No.
Any other questions? Okay, what I'd love to know is if you, what would you tell your younger self? Let's say you all were back in undergrad. What would you tell your younger self?
Well, I would, if I were back in undergraduate, I would maybe, so undergraduate was very different. Let me do graduate school.
You answer however you'd like.
Read early, read often, read continually. Okay.
Oh, are you done? Because I can follow off on that. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with that. With graduate school, I always tell my students that. I was like, you have to understand, you need to be the expert on your topic. I'm not the expert. And I always tell them, I already have a PhD, I'm expert, but are you gonna be expert on what you are studying? That's what you need to be. So you need to know everything about this topic and know even more. You need to know, by the time you graduate, you need to know.
Yeah, so.
What I would say
Mm-hmm.
is that take advantage of every single opportunity that shows up at your door. You saw the purse, the surf, go for it. You see like there is an opportunity in a lab or I don't know, a scholarship to go to a different institution for a summer, apply for it. Try everything because you know, the more you do things and you go after things and things that sometimes show up in front of you, like, oh, there is this application. Don't ever think that you cannot do it, that you are not good enough. Just apply and try and try and try and try. And don't be upset or sad because you got rejected or you got denied, because that's how life is. When you go to industry, you go to academia, you are gonna have a lot of no's and a lot of rejections. But if you learn early about those things and you try those things, you know, sometimes your doors might open in unexpected situations and places that you would never expect it if you haven't tried. And let me give you a concrete example, because maybe this is a little bit abstract. I used to be, when I was younger, I was very scared about trying. And in most cases, because I doubted myself of being capable, or maybe because I felt like, oh, they will never, I mean, I'm going to apply, but I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I have a strong CV or anything. But my father and my husband, they always told me like, stop that, go and try. What is the worst that can happen? You receive a no? So what? You move on. But if you receive a yes, yay, you did it, you made it. And every yes that you get is a booster in your ego and in your feeling of feeling better. So you should never be scared about applying and trying things. For me, coming to US, that was something that I'm gonna tell you one thing. I applied to only one single graduate school. One single graduate school, Michigan State, to do my PhD. I didn't even know. In Brazil, we don't have any information about universities. In US, we don't know anything. I knew the faculty member. I met him in a conference. And I loved his research. I thought it was great. And I said, I want to work with this guy. So I applied to his university, to his lab. I talked to him and he said, yeah, go ahead and apply. And you know what happened? At the beginning, I was like, I can't believe that he is actually encouraging me to do that. Can I do that? You know, coming from Brazil, and I applied, and he even gave me a scholarship to come. So I was like, wow. But I have so many colleagues that always wanted to come to US and things like that. They never tried. They never even tried. They never even contact any professors. But now, because I did that, I came to US, I did my PhD in one of the best labs in microbiology. He's an NAS member. He opened so many doors for me. And then I ended up going to an NIE member to do my postdoc at Yale. So doors start to open for me because I took the risk, even though I didn't think that I was going to be capable and even be able to even succeed, you know. But I tried. I took my risk, and I tried with one single university, because I said, is that the one that I'm going to go? Is with that professor that I want to work. When I tell that story, everybody looks at me and say like, what? Nobody does that. We always apply to a bunch of institutions and everything. And I was like, I didn't know better. And it was very expensive for me to pay in dollars to other institutions. And I didn't know any faculty members in other institutions. I just knew this guy and his research, and I loved it. And I wanted to do the work with him. And one thing led to another. So yeah, so my young self, I should have done way more of those things, like try more and take more risks. Yeah. Maybe if I had done taking more risk, I don't know where I would be, but that's what I would say. Like, take the risks and go for it. Yes.
Yes, I think sometimes people, you know, even the reading aspect, you know, I think when you're a student, sometimes it's hard to understand that you can be on a path to getting better and better at some area of expertise. And students are sometimes, young people are sometimes intimidated by professors, intimidated in classes, and even intimidated, I guess, by the reading or by the subject matter. And so I would tell my younger self, you know, read with the passion and your interests, and, you know, do it all the time, because it's only as you become more and more familiar and more intimate with some subject matter that you begin to make connections, and you begin to get in a position where you can really become creative in that subject matter. And you'll see a lot of growth. So.
You're muted, Erica.
Great. Well, I think there aren't any other questions. I think we're at the close of our hour.
There's a chat question about GPA, and I'm curious about that.
Is that Brittany? Brittany's encouraging people to, okay. You can expound on that, Brittany? Dr.
Yeah, so we get a number of students each semester who are interested in applying to PERS or, you know, getting ready to apply to SURF, and maybe they are just under that 3.0 GPA requirement. And I want to encourage you to still apply, because that GPA, it doesn't capture your whole experience. It doesn't define everything in college for you. Is it important for you to have a strong track record in your subject area, especially if you're wanting to do research in that area? Yeah, that's important, but it's not the only thing that you're going to be evaluated on. So know that too, whenever you're thinking about applying to things.
Dr. Long, I think you were going to add to what you would do with you could turn back the clock with your young.
I was just going to say, one thing I didn't learn until graduate school was to take advantage of going to hear people talk or seminars that are on campus. When I was an undergraduate, I was just concentrating on what test was coming up next week or the lab I had to get done. And I really wish I had done that. I learned to do that in grad school. I just made it a point every time like a Nobel laureate was coming to campus or something, I would go to hear that person talk, no matter what the field was, whether it was my field or not. And I really think, I mean, there's so many opportunities here on campus, or now with the Zoom thing, you can listen to people from all over the world, or go over to Rice when Rice has got somebody, you know, that you'd like to hear. So take advantage of those kind of things. you know, to make some time for doing things of that sort while you're an undergraduate. That's just a small thing that I wish I'd done when I was an undergraduate.
Yeah, it does. Same for me. I always started to doing these kind of things when I was at Yale, actually, not even a graduate student, as a postdoc, because my postdoc advisor used to tell us, you have no idea, the community is so small, you are gonna might need a letter of recommendation, and not mentioning that those give you ideas about research and things and a broad knowledge of the whole field or different fields. So it's quite exciting. Some speakers, okay, might not be so good, but some speakers are fabulous. Even if you're not from the same area, when they speak, oh my goodness, it's unbelievable. And it's very inspiring, actually. It's very inspiring. If you give it a shot, especially Nobel laureates and this type of people, NI members, and I mean, they know how to talk to people, not necessarily you would expect that, oh, they are so big, their vocabulary, their jargon is going to be horrible. But no, sometimes it's so understandable and so nice. It's a great opportunity, indeed.
Well, as you can see why I had to invite Dr. Freelon and Dr. Rodrigues to join us today. They're just incredible at people and speak with such passion and so generous with their time. So please join me in thanking them for spending their Friday afternoon with us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
so for, we
also
appreciate you putting all this together and being the moderator.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My
yeah,
pleasure.
thank you. I appreciate too. It was
Thank
great.
you. Yeah.
Brittany,
I hope we have inspired some of you in some levels.
Yes.
Brittany, did you have any last thing you wanted to say to the audience? Or?
You know, I would just encourage everyone who's still here, you know, the main takeaways here, you know, would be ask questions and get involved. Make sure that your voice is heard and that you find mentors at various levels who validate you and make sure that you have opportunities to contribute, and make sure that whoever you are working with in any kind of mentoring relationship, that there's something beneficial for both of you, that you're contributing something and that they are also helping you develop too. I think that is like the biggest takeaway here, is to go for opportunities, ask questions, and seek out those healthy mentoring relationships.
Awesome. We'll wish everybody a fabulous remainder to their Friday and a spectacular weekend.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Byron.